Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today's reel that we're going to be working on is a Daiwa. It's the AG9000X graphite bodied reel. It's probably from the late 1980s. And this reel kind of says everything about what was happening with those reels of the time. It works, they're durable, there's a noticeable gear grind to them. This one does not have a bail that is tripping. And well, we're going to take this apart. We're going to see how to make this thing a little bit more operational. But when you get a gear grind like that in an older reel like this, the best you can do is to prevent it from getting any worse rather than correcting it. Because this was an entry-level reel by Daiwa, you really don't have parts support on it, and you certainly don't have parts support on it after 30 years. So we'll do our best here. And one of the things that you'll learn from this is a little bit about the industrial design of the reel. You'll learn a little bit about how this reel was made, what differentiates it in terms of versus the expensive reels. And well, you'll just get to see a good idea of a typical graphite early stage reel. Well, we're going to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. We started by removing the screw that holds the handle on. This has a through blade. Goes through the main gear and is attached by that handle screw. And one of the things to do so that you don't lose pieces and parts is, well, take that handle screw and just reattach it before you set that handle aside. I recommend to everybody who's working on reels to have a system where you're going to address taking the parts off the reel. And well, I use a parts tray. A parts tray is the bottom of a fast food container. Doesn't have to be. You can use whatever you like, but I do recommend that you find a way to organize your pieces and parts for the reinstall. Well, one of the first things I want to try with that bail that's sticking, I want to try a little bit of penetrating oil right in the seam. Sometimes these bails just get a little bit dirty, and that penetrating oil can flush it out and can fix that right away. I do notice that the spring is working, so if the spring is working, you normally do not need to remove the bail assembly without trying this first. Well, that seems to be clicking, so let's see if we can get it to fire now. Well, we're not having any luck there, so we'll take a look at that, see what we can do. Alright, let's take off the spool. Now this would normally have a Daiwa emblem cap in there hiding that, but it's perfectly functionable without it. And I've seen too many of these reels to say that that's not a shortcoming of this reel, losing that little cap. That comes off, and we can remove the spool. And another thing you're going to learn about this reel is, well, it doesn't have a nut attaching the rotor. It has a what we call a U-clip. One of the things that's a telltale sign of the early graphite reels is a very wide bottom of the reel. It was just the way that they were designed for strength, since they moved over from metal bodies to graphite bodies. When you work on these reels now, in terms of taking them off, make sure that you disengage that anti-reverse. So to do that, you flip the switch out. And we have 4 screws here that are going to be holding the case on. We'll remove those. These are Phillips head screws. I get a question a lot about using a mechanical screwdriver to remove screws and to replace the screws, particularly from folks that having trouble with their hands, arthritis or whatever. I don't recommend using that mechanical screwdriver because of the torque that's involved in it. I've seen cases crack with people that have over-tightened it on the way to reinstalling the screws. Going out, I don't concern myself as much. There's lesser damages that can be done. One of the things, unfortunately, that happens is if a screw gets stuck, I've seen these screw heads get stripped out because they want to power out with that screwdriver, and most simply can't do that, right? And the weakest link in that chain is the slot for the screw, which tends to get beaten up a lot with those drivers. If you need it, my recommendation is go carefully. See if you can't break the screw before you remove it on the way out. On the way in, leave the screw proud. Don't finish it off with that screwdriver. Make the last turn or two by hand. There's 4 screws that are holding this on. We should be able to remove the side plate now. And this kind of tells you the construction of the reel. Well, I think we figured out why the reel is turning poorly. There probably should be a bearing or a bushing in this side case. It's not here. Always fun when you take these things off and you kind of figure out what the heck is going on. But that one should have a bushing or a bearing there. That's probably why this has been moving side to side. And well, we'll see if we can find something as a replacement there. Next up is a pivot arm. Now we should be able to bring this down. And we want to remove the axle shaft. This is the second reel I've had in about 2 weeks. It was missing a part that just made you wonder. The other one was a very high-end Avid reel. These are the parts to your axle shaft. You have the crosswind block, and up top you have the click ratchet and spool adjuster. That's a good place to tell you to take pictures, particularly if you're not familiar with the reel you're working on. Those pictures will be invaluable in helping you to reinstall the reel when that time comes. Alright, we should be able to remove the main gear now. Just pull that through. Yeah, see, this one has that little kind of metal plastic collar on it as the bushing. Probably had the same thing on this side. Yeah, had the same thing on this side. It's missing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a piece like that. I guess we can give it a try. But that clearly is the issue on this side. And now we have what is a pin or a U-clip holding on the rotor. This is just a simple clip. It's held in place by the side plate case. And there's a slot in the rotor that this fits into. Here's your slot right here. And all you want to do is examine and make sure that this is clean. I think what we have here from the trip lever standpoint well, this reel is a goner in more respects than not. We've got several things going on here. One of them is we have no trip ramp. When you open up your bale, there should be a trip ramp coming through here, which is missing. Why does that surprise me? We are missing the bushing for the main gear, and we are missing teeth on this swing. I'm not sure what the purpose of that swing is right now. This would be your anti-reverse lockout. That's here. The secondary one, I'm just not sure. Maybe that was set up for, that was probably set up for a fast cast type of an approach. Well, we're going to do a quick look inside on the bale here. On this part, I normally would just give up on the reel and understand that there's just too many missing pieces and parts to make this one work properly again. I just want to take a quick look underneath here. Yeah, what we have here, this little stud should have a trip lever that comes out here. That's broken off, and I think at this point it's probably safe to say that this reel is unrepairable due to missing pieces and parts. And well, it'd be interesting if reels could talk to find out what caused the separate failures. I would say that the bale trip would have been one, but secondarily got a missing part on the reinstall of the main gear. So my guess on that one is just, I'll call it operator error, but somebody was probably trying to fix the reel, and well, he just forgot a piece of part. And I suspect what happened from there is that the wheel wound up on the side somewhere, with everybody just thinking, well, that's about all we can do with this. All right, I'm going to aim that this carrier here for the slot on the way in. We'll just tighten all of this back up, and we'll give this one back to Kevin with the advice that too many missing parts to complete the service on. And interesting, I am going to go try to find a replacement bushing, but there's no guarantees there. All right, to service the reel, you would just continue as we're going to do here. I'll put it all back together just to show everybody. We have the bushing. The teeth are clean. There's no greases or anything in this reel. Another reason for the poor performance. We're going to go ahead and just put some grease onto the teeth. Then the major stop on this one, you don't have that trip lever, and you don't have the bushing. The trip lever you can live without. You can manually cast this reel, and you can manually close the bail. Just open and close it. You don't need the trip lever to do that. This reel could keep fishing with just that manual override. But the slop in the gears with that missing plastic collar bushing is the real cause of the issue here in terms of why it's not going to be able to be fished efficiently going forward. Okay, we can put the main gear back in. Make sure that that little bushing gets seated properly. Next up would be the crosswind block. A bit of grease in the back where it's going to ride in that track. And then load that into the track. If you didn't remember which was up and which was down, go to your pictures. That was the up position. Bring the axle shaft through. And then go to your parts tray to get the screw for that axle shaft. So sometimes you'd like to keep a reel fishing that you just can't do, and that's because of parts availability. So we're gonna say that that's the ultimate cause of failure for this one. You would want to run out and get another bushing. But of course, that bushing isn't here. All right, we're going to. I'm going to leave this open at this point. We're going to call this one a video. We'll say this is why the reel failed, and then look inside. But overall, please, if you're servicing a reel, make sure that you take the time to try to find the pieces and parts management system. In this case, I use a parts tray, so that when it comes time to reinstall, you don't lose out. You have all the pieces, you have all the parts, you can put them back together again and keep a reel fishing. Well, lessons learned. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing all of our first responders and essential personnel the best. You are the best. And thanking everybody for watching. Have a great day.